Hi everybody, and welcome to our third webinar Wednesday, where we are looking at alternative routes to employment. I'm Jenna Richardson, and I'm the employer liaison lead for the EM3 Armed Forces Veterans and Families Programme at RFEA, the Forces Employment Charity. So for anyone who isn't familiar with RFEA, we are a charity who's been running since 1885, and we are offering bespoke ranges of programs to support the armed forces community into employment and training opportunities. We have bespoke one-to-one support for our clients, which can range from CV writing support, interview skills training, help with translating skills and qualifications into something recognised by civilian employers. And we generally support our clients on their employment journeys in any way that we can. We also work very closely with employers who are keen to recruit from our client base, largely because they recognise and appreciate the value that the armed forces community can add to their organisation, as well as understanding the challenges that this community can face. So our EM3 programme is part of a wider project which is being run by the Enterprise M3 Local Enterprise Partnership, and it covers the West Surrey and Hampshire region. We're working with veterans, spouses and partners of veterans and currently serving personnel, and for the first time we're working with young people in the community have a parent or carer who either is serving in the armed forces or has served. The Local Enterprise Partnership has identified that there is a skills gap in the digital, technical and sustainable construction. Excited to be working with other to deliver this programme. So the teams at TechVets, Ex-Forces Enterprise, the University of Winchester and Building Heroes are working with us and providing some amazing training and development and opportunities for our clients. So today's webinar, I'm really excited to welcome Lindsay West and Steve Peterson from KpH Deconstruction Services Limited. This is a really exciting webinar to be a part of, and I'm really pleased to be able to present this one myself because KpH Deconstruction Services were the very first employer that we registered on the EM3 programme. So it's really lovely to have you both here. Lindsay, can I invite you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do in your role, please?
Yeah, not a problem. So yeah, I'm Lindsay West. So I'm the Director of Operations for KpH Deconstruction Services. What that entails, essentially that is ensuring that the business is run from an operational perspective, as it should be, strategically planning for the business, working with my staff, my back office staff, my site staff, just ensuring that we are growing the business and performing as we should on behalf of our clients.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, Lindsay. It's lovely to have you here. And Steve, could I ask you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So my name's Steve Peterson. My current role is titled Development and Logistics Manager. I oversee from the operational point of view, I look after the logistics and moving tools to and from site, any new projects that are starting and finishing, organising waste transfer, anything that's removed from our sites. I also look after the recruitment side, so we're constantly running a recruitment program, advertising, and kind of trying to bring new people into the business. And I'm also responsible for the kind of upskilling and training programs that help develop the labourers and operatives that work across our sites. I have quite a few hats, but I also am heavily involved in creating new processes and looking at all of our existing processes and the way we do things and trying to work out how can we do them quicker, better, more efficiently, and kind of discuss a bit more about that later. But it's kind of I develop apps and technology that all of our guys can use and ladies on site, the back office team, the operations team, so that we can kind of make the business run more seamlessly.
Brilliant. That sounds like you've got quite a task there, Steve. Sounds like there's a lot of things that you do. So looking forward to hearing a bit more about that later on. So, firstly, obviously, thank you both very much for being with us. Now, it's fair to say when I first started interacting with KpH Deconstruction, I had no idea what deconstruction was. I'd heard of construction, automatically thinking like big cranes, building sites, people in hard hats, all that kind of thing. But can you explain to us exactly what deconstruction is? Because it's not quite the same. It's quite specialised, isn't it? And it's a really interesting sort of part of the wider construction industry. So, can you tell us a little bit about what it is for me, please?
Do you want me to go with this one, Steve?
I'll let you go with that one, Lindsay.
So most people will have heard of demolition, and when they think about demolition, they think about a building wherever, whether it's in London or wherever, and you're just going to knock that building to the ground. You're going to have an excavator, you're going to pull the building down, and you're going to demolish it, and then generally you're going to build back up again something shiny and new. The difference in terms of what we do is that we work internally within buildings, and we take them back to shell and core, or to a finish that the client's kind of looking for, and we deconstruct them pretty much by hand. I mean, some of the heavier work, whether it's concrete removal, blockwork wall removal, will use small kind of machines powered by electricity, but essentially a lot of it is done by hand, and we take the building apart kind of piece by piece, really. There's a big shift in the industry, in the construction industry as a whole, with the push for kind of circular economy, going carbon neutral, carbon free. And what's come off the back of that is that it's not carbon friendly, I suppose, to knock buildings down and start again. So more and more now, projects are being looked at in a very different way, which obviously we quite like that for obvious reasons. It means we're very busy, as is the deconstruction side of the industry. And they're now looking at saving those buildings and taking them apart from the inside, potentially cutting them, carving them, but keeping the structure still there. And that's essentially what we do. We do that in live buildings where there's still tenants working above and below us. We'll do that in commercial buildings, retail offices, NHS, schools, universities, that kind of thing. Is really broad. And yeah, the point of doing it is to ensure that we're recycling. We're using single waste streams. We're being more economical for the environment, more sustainable. And this is just going to be a move that's just going to really keep going and going, especially over the next, I would say, definitely 2 to 3 years. And really, I think that's just going to be the shift in construction, really. I think we're going to see less and less buildings being knocked to the ground.
I think it's really interesting because it's looking at developing those brownfield sites, isn't it? And like we were talking before about, there's a conservation heritage element here, because you're able to, strip out old buildings which otherwise could be just demolished in the sort of more traditional wrecking ball kind of sense. So it's a really interesting industry, and it's really exciting to be able to share this with our viewers.
Yeah. And we have, I think sometimes it's kind of felt that it's not a skill, but it really is a skill to take a building apart and do it without damaging it, do it while there's people working above you, below you, and looking at how to take things apart carefully and deconstruct. It's a real skill. And I think sometimes it potentially gets a little bit overlooked, but trust me, Steve will attest to this, having spent a lot of time working on our sites. It certainly isn't, it's certainly, as I say, a skill for sure.
Brilliant. And I think, neither of you mind me saying that you didn't aspire to do this when you were young. This is a second career for you both. So, Steve, can you tell us a little bit about your journey into this industry?
Sure. I started off school and college, did my O levels, and then went into a college and did a BTEC in business and data processing. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at the time. Found that I was never great at maths, actually. Maths was okay, but I was never amazing. And I always thought, I could be a software developer, and then told I couldn't because I wasn't brilliant at maths. And I kind of proved them wrong, really, because I got an O level in computer science, and then kind of got a C in my maths. And but I think it's for me, I feel like my brain's quite analytic. I love taking processes and things apart and working out a more efficient way. So I think that's why I made that a success. But I went started from the beginning really as a trainee developer, through into senior software developer. Then I moved companies and became a software architect for a publishing company. So yeah, I had quite a broad career, and then I became an IT manager, and then kind of personal circumstances, family life, there was a lot of traveling, which was great at the time. I thought, this is great. I'm in America, I'm in India, I'm all over the place, but it's not always great when you're at home and in a relationship. So that kind of took me on a different kind of journey, and I kind of decided to have a bit of a travel and have a break for myself and recharge my batteries, because it's the IT world is hard. You've got to stay up to date on everything that's happening, and even a small time away can really make it hard to catch up. And then when I came back, I started working with my dad, who's a plasterer, and I've worked with him when I was younger as well. So I know construction, and I knew what they used to do. And then the work kind of went quiet. So I went and thought, well, I'll just go and do some labouring and earn some money for now. I'm quite happy doing something physical and a change of, less heavy work on my brain. And bumped into KpH on a project, working for a recruitment from an agency, from a supply agency, and I loved it. Like from the first moment, I started as a labourer, but very quickly I was like, I want to be doing that. And so KpH gave me the opportunity to start working on the tools. I wasn't new to using tools, because I'd worked with my dad and got some experience. But kind of just found it exciting and interesting, and a whole new thing that I didn't realize existed. And I loved taking things apart and working out, as Lindsay said, we come across some projects that are very challenging and things we haven't come across to take apart when it comes to large plant and engines and motors. And yeah, just kind of, I think it was probably part my excitement, enthusiasm that kind of allowed me to progress quite quickly through KpH. And I'm talking about 8 years ago now. And I kind of worked my way through becoming an operative. I was cutting all the services and really enjoying that, and then got offered the opportunity to look after people. And again, we talked about transferable skills. When I was an IT manager, I had 30 developers that I used to look after and had projects to maintain, and all of those skills are still with me now. I can still use them. I still have people I'm responsible for and projects to manage of my own. And so yeah, it's been interesting. And like I say, I moved up into supervisor, site manager, and then there was an opportunity that arose for, as KpH were growing, to sort of look at, could I manage the logistics department, and then the IT stuff. I kind of come full circle, started looking at ways of making the project run more efficiently. Everyone had their own Excel spreadsheet, so I wanted everyone to be able to access the same thing. And that's where all the development of the app started. And luckily, KpH gave me enough rope to either hang myself or luckily I made things with them. And so yeah, it's been a real success story from my point of view. It's been a real success story. And I love doing new things all the time. I'm someone who gets bored very easily doing the same thing, which I think I found IT a little bit difficult from that point. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here.
That's a really interesting story, and you're the example of the KpH homegrown talent. You start at at the operative level, and you've worked your way up to the top. And I think 8 years it's quite quick as well. It's quite a fast trajectory, isn't it? So that's really interesting. And being a software developer, moving into something else, and then being able to use those skills again, it just shows the transferability. Thanks, Steve. That's brilliant. Lindsay, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up where you are with?
Yeah, it's probably not as exciting as Steve's, to be fair, but I kind of always wanted to work in law. Finished my studies and got a full-time job working in a law firm. Kind of started my way again at the bottom, really. Worked my way up. And then went back to night school, got my legal executive exams, and just worked my way up through the law firm. And then I had children young, went and had my daughter, who's now nearly 16, and took a little bit of a break. And then off the back of that, thought I'll just take a part-time job somewhere, you know, just while she's little, you know, what you do really when you're raising a family. And then that happened to be in a demolition firm. And I'm a little bit like Steve. I'm nosy. My brain goes 100 miles an hour. And I just thought, I want to know a bit more about this. And I basically worked my way around the company, learning quality management, health and safety, marketing, all various things over a period of time. And that's where I kind of learnt my trade, so to speak, and then settled in business development and client relations, which I'd done quite a bit of in the law firm, so it was kind of transferable again. And just decided at a point in time that I didn't feel like I was going to be able to progress my career at the company I was at. I was grateful to them, but I didn't think I was going to be able to move forward. Very traditional demolition firm, quite male dominated, and then so came across to KpH, and similar to Steve, I came across 8 years ago as a business development manager. Quickly decided that we needed to change our name. So when I came across, we were KpH Environmental Services, but we were undertaking deconstruction, and I was like, I'm not sure how I can sell this. So we rebranded in 2015. And then I moved up to divisional manager, and then off the back of that was appointed director of operations in 2020. And since Steve and I have joined, I mean, just to give you some context in terms of what the senior leadership team have done, and they're all homegrown talent. Everybody who's within the senior leadership team has started within KpH, at a level and worked their way up. We've probably grown the business in that time around about 75% in terms of our turnover in 8 years, which is absolutely huge.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And a lot of that comes from the fact that the business rewards people who, work hard and invest in the business. So that's kind of my journey.
Wow. It's quite incredible, and it's great to see employers recognizing talent within their workforces and nurturing it, investing in it, developing it. So well, thank you very much both for that, because that's a real insight into how you personally got there. And so Steve and Lindsay sent some information through to us just before we started this presentation, and on it was a slide about the different roles that were in KpH, and I've written them down because I can't remember them all, but there were 26 different roles, and I'm going to read them out because it just gives a bit of an idea of the sorts of roles are available within the industry. So there's operations director, operations manager, project assistant, demolition operative, construction site supervisor, business development, procurement, contracts manager, surveyor, estimating surveyor, accounts administrator, health and safety manager, health and safety administrator, site labourer, labour coordinator, logistics coordinator, marketing, architects, asbestos removal, banksman, yard supervisor, logistics and resourcing and operations coordinator. And when I saw that, the amount of different roles that are available within this kind of industry, it kind of blew my mind. I do have to ask, what's a banksman though? Because I don't know what that is. One of you tell me what that is.
Right. I can handle that. Yeah. I mean, a banksman basically is someone that they typically work in the logistics team, and they will be responsible for the booking in and out of vehicles, making sure that they're reversed safely, are taken in and out of the site safely. So it's quite an important safety role from a health and safety point of view to make, because they're large vehicles, they're 40 yarders, which again we know the issues with visibility and cyclists, and especially in London, there's all sorts of cycle lanes, and you try and reverse across something. So they are a very important part of what we do to keep things safe.
So I'm sure other people will not be sure. So I've either just made myself look like a fool, or I've asked the question.
No,
so there we go. But yeah, I mean, the reason I wanted to read that out was just to sort of demonstrate the vast number of different roles, because I mean, being completely honest, I think of construction, and the image that you conjure up is the building site. It's the tradespeople essentially. You don't necessarily think of the wider picture and the bigger business function and all those really essential parts of the business that all come together to make this work. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with our our viewers, just to sort of highlight how vast this industry is.
I mean, we're I was just going to say, we're the first people in, so without what we do, those trades can't do what they do. So everybody has a place in the refurbishment, if you like, of a building. So we're the first people in. We prepare it ready for those trades to come in and rebuild it, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important for the wider sort of construction, renovation, sort of the trade. So if just sort of like looking at how to get into this industry now. So, I mean, what is a sort of the general pathway that somebody would follow? Say somebody turned up to you with no experience, they've got their CSCS card, and they're looking to be a trainee. What would it look like for that individual?
So we have kind of three kind of routes that could be chosen, and it could depend on people's personal circumstances, right? So the first one would be they could do a demolition operative apprenticeship scheme. So it's an 18 to 24 month scheme. It's built up of working on site, hands-on learning every day, working with our site teams, backed up with separate training from a training provider that delivers the demolition apprentice course. Now, the benefits of that, there's two things. So apprenticeship would be you're starting off on a lower wage, right? So we have like a sliding scale from what we do. The minimum wage is £4 something. I can't remember what they've changed it to recently. We start apprentices off at £5 with their travel paid as well. After 6 months review, they would be then moved to £7.50 an hour. And then at the 12-month point, they'd be put on £10 an hour. And then when they finish their course, they have the potential of moving and earning £15 plus an hour. So it's quite a good rate. The big advantage of the apprenticeship, I would say, if someone came, there's two ways, and I'll talk about the other way in a moment, is that at the end of the 2-year apprenticeship, you get a demolition and refurbishment card, okay, which is a CCDO card, which they can apply for, which would normally, if they take the second route, which they come and just start as a demolition labourer and they work their way up, they need to get that card. They will need 5 years on-site experience to be able to earn that card and to be able to be earning those types of wages. So the apprenticeship is a real accelerated way of doing it, but obviously some people's personal circumstances would mean it's not possible for them to start on £5 an hour. So the second route, they can come in as a demolition labourer and they learn from the bottom up. If they're the right people and they're showing enthusiasm, the right attitude, we can progress people we have a lot of internal upskilling and training courses that we build on site. We have this kind of buddy system for helping people accelerate, where they work alongside the operatives, where you learn. And it was the idea for that was that's the way that I learned. I felt like I was emptying everybody's brain that I worked with, and that really helped me progress. And this whole idea of upskilling is exactly that. But the person has to have and want that. It's some people are quite happy to come and say, I'm happy removing the waste from site, loading the skips, loading the bins, cleaning, keeping the site clean. Some people are perfectly happy doing that. The idea is to identify the people that want to become operatives. And then we have a trainee operative, which we call our upskilling. And Lindsay mentioned earlier on about one of the ladies that had joined us recently on one of our sites about 4 months ago. And she's on that trainee operative upskilling program. And the idea is to make her a competent operative within 6 months, which is, quite accelerated. So but that has to be the right level. Now, the trainee operative is also open to anyone that's come out of college. So someone might have gone to college and done some MVQs in construction, or a T-level construction related course as well. And there's estimating courses, there's construction courses. Again, anyone that's come with those would have had some practical and the health and safety knowledge instilled into them. So again, this is another route. So that could be school leavers, but in the case of the lady Lindsay was talking about, it was someone that had, similar to myself and Lindsay, decided they were a change of career, were interested in construction. She went and did these MVQ government-led programs to teach you level 1 bricklaying, plastering, tiling, and then she come and knocked on our door. We'd been to see them, give them a presentation to this company, do this, and then she phoned up and said, I liked what we heard about KpH. Can you give me a job? And this was on the Thursday, and she started on site on the Monday. So and it's been a real success story for us, and she's kind of been our guinea pig for the ideas that we've got, in a way, for can we do this? And that's where we had what you're doing, Jenna, in mind around this, because if we can take someone that's already got skills and we can move people quickly and train them up to be an operative, then it opens other doors to gang in, supervising, and that move up very quickly, like I kind of felt like I got the opportunity to do myself.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's quite incredible, the different routes that are available for different different people with different backgrounds, different sort of different skills and experience. So for the sort of apprenticeships and the very sort of entry level, is experience required, or is it?
No. So we say they don't have to have previous experience. It's useful if we've just started an apprentice actually last month. An apprentice that we started, and he had come from he'd gone and done a construction course at East Surrey College. He's 17, was really interested in construction. He's done a little bit of labouring with a roofing company, since he was 16 on and off. But it's more about his attitude and the ability to apply what he's learned and what we've got to teach him as well, because there's two sides to the apprenticeship. You need, that someone has to be able to relate. And we've had apprenticeships that have failed in the past, and it's because someone finds it very hard to relate what they're learning in the classroom to what we're actually doing on site. And it's an individual thing. But he's been with us a month now. Things are looking very positive, and it's been a really good route for him to come in. So both the demolition labourer and the apprenticeship, you don't have to have experience. Of course it's useful if you've been on a construction site before, but the apprentice didn't have a CSCS card, so we helped him get his CSCS card. So we helped fund that for him and get him on that. And again, it was even though he'd done his college course, to pass the touchscreen test, which is really hard now. God, I did it 5 years ago and it was a lot easier, and I know it's a lot more difficult now. He couldn't believe the amount of revision he had to do on top of the course that he'd already completed.
Steve, is it worth just letting everybody know kind of because we've talked about the route in and the pay for apprentices, but we didn't talk about the hours and the pay for the other routes in, just so that everyone's kind of got an idea what that looks like. So,
one of the things we have I suppose it is a bit of an issue, okay, is like, office jobs can be 9 till 5. Okay, now the sites that we run, typically sometimes we have to be starting early because of noise restrictions that we might have if we're working in an occupied building, as Lindsay's mentioned before. And sometimes it can just be due to logistical issues that, we have to get the waste off site. And if it's a site where there's multiple occupants using the lift, sometimes we have to work a little bit later. But our typical site hours are 7:30 till 5:30. Okay, so they can feel quite long to especially people that have come out of college and other places. But we also get that from people that kind of want to change career and like, it's like a really start for me to come in and start at 7:30. So we're always quite honest and upfront about that. But the salary routes are quite interesting. So as I said, the apprentice can earn from 11,000 up to 23,000 plus their travel. Okay, within those first 2 years, our typical demolition labourer, that again could be someone that's come with little or no experience, can start at 30k a year. Now, that's quite an impressive salary, but at the same time, the offset of that is things like the working hours. You are working longer, you're having to get up a bit earlier in the morning to get into central London or wherever the project is. But the progression through labourer, operative, are what we class as our senior operatives. They're earning up to 35k plus for working on the tools. And then once you go into the ganging and supervising and site manager, it all depends on people's level of experience. But, senior site managers are earning 60k plus, and some of them a fair bit more than that with different projects if they get bonuses attached to that, incentivized, if there's tight programs and deadlines for those. So, it can offer I love the career aspects of that. But also I think, even starting off at the beginning, I don't think 30k is, yes, it's hard work. Of course it's hard work, but, I feel like people are being rewarded for that.
That's amazing. And just to think that someone can come in and work their way up through the business to those kinds of salaries it's quite incredible, really. It's like the whole package, isn't it? You're offering a full career. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a technical issue here. I keep freezing.
Sometimes you freeze, but we can hear
that's
you.
okay. That's okay. So we mentioned, just for some of the people that are on the call that may not be aware, can we just explain what a CSCS card is? Because I'm aware that we keep mentioning it and I've mentioned it, but just to let people know what that is.
Yeah. So CSCS card stands for Construction Skills Certified Scheme. Now, these cards different cards were brought to kind of make sure that whoever's working in the trade that they're working in is competent to a competent level. Okay, so it kind of validates that someone is holding the right training certificates to be doing the work that they're doing on site. So a typical one that you would see is a green CSCS labourer card, and that's what's needed. And again, these are changing and evolving. You used to only go and do they'd ask you 50 questions, and that you would answer that and you would pass or fail, and it used to be a fairly low pass mark. Now I think it's 45 out of 50, and also now you have to do an MVQ level 1 in health and safety on site, which is a classroom trained delivered course. It's only a 1-day course, so it's a 1-day course plus. And really, that's the base minimum requirements for being on our site is a CSCS card, because it does teach people how to be safe on site. What if they've got an issue? Don't not ask a question. People would rather you ask than not. How do the sites work? How do they operate? So it's really important. The second part of being on and working on our sites is basically to hold an asbestos awareness course. Now, obviously what we do is quite intrusive when we're doing our demolition and strip out. And the idea, this course is a yearly course that you have to do. They do them online. You should do a classroom trained one every 2 years, just to keep you up to date on where, keep you refreshed really of what you should be looking for. And all operatives, managers, everybody has to kind of have this so that if anything new's appearing or it updates you on any new rules and regulations that they might do and change and adapt. So yeah.
I don't know if we've lost Jenna. She's frozen. Should we mention about the other cards that the CSCS offer as well, Steve? Maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, a CSCS card. There's, as I said, there's one for specific. There's cards for specific trades. There's also cards for supervisors. So supervisors have a level 3 NVQ, and that's a gold supervisor card. And then there's a site manager card, which is a black card, and that the MVQs go up to level 4, 5, and 6 for that. And you know, they're not a legal requirement, but you'll find every single site, you know, will ask for this as part of their own sort of company policies. And our company policy is minimum standard is a green CSCS card and asbestos awareness, and that's our.
I think it just proves it's an industry standard that proves competence, doesn't it? I mean, we as a company don't necessarily measure competence in that way because we monitor it once people are on site to make sure that they are competent to do the tasks. And that's why people work their way up through the site ranks, if you like, starting with the simpler tasks to ensure that they're going to be able to comply with simple health and safety, you know, rules and requests. And then they obviously move up to the next level of task. And then eventually they'll start working with tools, start kind of, you know, building towers, which obviously need to be built correctly. And then eventually start kind of working their way up through the various levels. And we have our own kind of competency tick sheet, if you like, which allows those people to move up through the ranks. And then obviously as they move up through the ranks, their kind of hourly rate is reflected in terms of, you know, what gets paid to them for doing those more kind of skilled tasks on site, really. I
mean, we have supervisors that still have a green CSCS labourer card, but they're supervisors, and we you know, we put more weight on some separate courses. So there's a triple STS, which is a site supervisor training course, and there's a site manager, so an SMSTS is a site management training course, and one's a 3-day course and the site manager one's a 5-day course. That teaches you, you know, all about how to be a safe supervisor, you know, because if something goes wrong on site, you know, you could end up in prison if someone has an accident and you haven't, you know, put all the processes in place. So there's some other courses that we train people through. All of our supervisors have other courses like PASMA, which is a course that allows you to safely build and construct towers to allow access to working at height. We have abrasive wheel training, which are how to change a disc on a grinder, because again, it's a tool that's very dangerous. You know, grinder discs can explode, so we have training courses based around that. We have asbestos Cat B removal, which is the non-licensed, so it's the very low grade asbestos that it may be some floor tiles that have a very, very low percentage in. We have operatives and supervisors that are all trained in Cat B training, and then things like IPAF that allows people to work on scissor lifts and cherry pickers. So yeah, you know, within, you know, the base training that they're getting, there's also a lot of internal training courses that are done to help upskill all of our men. As Lindsay said earlier, some of our best site managers and supervisors are operatives that have worked their way up from being a labourer or operative right through. So welcome back, Jenna.
Thanks, Steve. Mentioned earlier, we're having some internet situations, stuff being upgraded in the village I live in, and typically it all decided to crash when I'm doing this webinar. So apologies for that.
We've just to update you. I was just running through the other types of training that we have, the other CSCS cards, and you know, other training.
Yeah, I think we've covered it all off now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I do apologise for that unscheduled disappearance on my part. So thank you for holding the fort and carrying that on. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I think particularly, Lindsay, this is one of your passions. It's about women into construction and the construction industry. So the Families Continuous Attitude Survey 2022, the report was the evidence, the and analytics were reported back in July, and it's identified that 9 out of 10, or over 9 out of 10 military spouses are female. So whilst we are supporting, the wider armed forces community, there's a real sort of alliance here between that particular section of our community and what KpH and the wider construction sector are looking to do to encourage women into this industry. So, Lindsay, like I say, I know this is a passion of yours, particularly to get women onto the sites. But can you tell me a little bit more about what KpH are doing, to nurture that?
Yeah, so there's a few routes in that we're looking at. The biggest one for me at the moment is trying to change attitudes in school, particularly in secondary schools. So we're working with quite a few organisations at the moment, government-led, to give feedback on this. But we're also actually just going into schools ourselves. It helps with myself going in and talking about my journey. I think construction generally feels quite intimidating, whether that's to young girls or to women. And I think it's good that we can go in and explain that we understand that. It is still male dominated. I think 14% of people working in construction, is women, basically. It's still underrepresented in that regard, but it's a lot better than it was, say, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 2 years ago. But what we want to do is so we've been working closely with secondary schools, girls' secondary schools, going in and just explaining that there's a place for them. That doesn't have to just be on site. It is in other roles, whether it's I've got 2 school leavers working with me at the moment, 2 young girls. They're both, one's 20, one's 19. And they had no idea, whilst they're very fresh out of school. It's been a few years since we've been there. But they had no idea that this was an industry that would be welcoming them in the way that it has done. And they left school not really knowing what either of them wanted to do. And now one is forging, and she's doing fantastically, forging a great career for herself in estimating. And another one is working into marketing and business development, obviously under my kind of tutelage. But like I say, it's not advertised enough, it's not spoken about enough. And then we start getting out onto site, and like talking about Jo earlier, who Steve mentioned, who's working on the site that I'm actually sitting on today. She wanted to get into construction, it interested her, but she did feel intimidated and she didn't really know where to start. And I think it really, all we can do is just raise awareness and just tell people that it is open. People, we're looking for this. We want this dynamic. I get a lot of raised eyebrows and questions. Oh, you run a demolition or a deconstruction firm? Yeah, no, I run it. Yeah, and that's still going to be the case for some time ahead. But I just feel like we're really making some really good strides here. But we want to do more, because I like that dynamic of having a site that has women and men working on it. We all think about things differently. We look at things in different ways. Imagine when you're deconstructing something, they may look at it a slightly different way than a man might, and that gives a nice dynamic on site. So yes, we're very much. As you can hear, I'm really passionate about it, and always looking for people who want to join, and they'll get full support from me, from where I sit, but also from the rest of my team.
That's brilliant. That's really great to hear that you're so sort of leading the charge really into demonstrating how it can be done, and how women can be supported in this typically and historically male dominated environment. So no, that's amazing. So thank you very much. That's really interesting and a really deep insight into KpH, although I'm sure that we could talk about this all day. We have got some questions from the social media streams that are broadcasting this. So we've got a Q&A session. So we have Colin, who is asking, what is the lower age limit that you would take for an apprenticeship? So that's a really good question. Okay. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, no, it's a really apt question, and it's something that we've been working hard in this year, because previously we always thought it would be 18 for insurance purposes and lots of other reasons. And we've done some more research. We've worked alongside the HSE to ask this question. So we actually got our limit down to 17 at the moment. But it is possible for someone who's 16, but it would need a little bit more. Obviously a 17-year-old can only work 8-hour days, so they can't work a full day. So there are impacts on what we do. But the lad that I spoke about earlier on, that's just come on, he's 17 and he's 18 in February. So again, he's looking forward to actually, he can then work a full day because it's, he's there and quite excited about what he's doing. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks. Thank you, Steve. Have we got another question, hopefully? Yes. Steve, would you recommend an 18-year-old completing a college course in construction or going straight into an apprenticeship?
That's a really interesting question. And my, as I said earlier on, if someone's circumstances are they're living at home with their parents, they've not got lots of outgoings, I would really recommend getting into the apprenticeship. The college courses teach you, and there's nothing wrong with a college course. And we went to East Surrey College recently, where we were talking to people who were 17 and in the right position, and they were like, "Oh, we're just going to go and do one more college course." And everyone's their own and can do their own thing. But my recommendation is, if you start that training course at 17, at the age of 19, you're going to have a CCDO demolition and refurbishment card and potentially be earning £15 plus an hour. And so the knowledge that you get from the apprenticeship and working on site, you could never get it that quickly through an extra college course. But everyone's each to their own, really, and some people want want that. So,
but I think it comes down to the individual, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think doing the college courses, T levels are great because they're employer backed and the way that they're put together, and that's definitely something to start doing. There's 3 T levels in construction now, and one of them is an on-site construction course. And we all know, you need to be in education between the ages of 16 and 18. So if he was thinking about coming onto site, those would be the courses we would say, if you're interested in construction, like research those, because they're a lot more practical based, in terms of what you're going to take, rather than particularly just learning, a particular trade.
Definitely. So have we got another question? Here we go. Okay, so what sort of work is available in the industry for a visual 3D artist?
Oh gosh, we put us on the spot there. I think, the only thing I can think about is maybe going into like BIM, Steve, maybe like BIM modeling, that kind of thing, which is where you can, so it's a little bit working alongside surveyors and architects, where you're kind of, I can't remember what it stands for, BIM now, but essentially it's like a 3D version of kind of what you're going to create, and it's using all the different materials and things that go into that from a sustainability point of view. We're not experts in it, but I think in terms of picking an industry or a job role that's kind of similar to that, that would be my thoughts on it.
Brilliant. That's a bit of a very niche one, I would imagine. I don't know if that's that's very specific, isn't it?
Though. Yeah, like I say, BIM modelling, they call it, and there are specific MVQs in it, I believe, and training courses.
Because I've seen videos on LinkedIn myself of, a new idea for a building, a new design, and there's a full 3D walkthrough. It's as if you're walking through the building, and wow. So this, this stuff's really hot right now, the new kind of technology in a new way. Before a building's even built, you can be able to see it and walk in it and go between the floors, and so it's definitely out there.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's quite amazing, really, isn't it? So do we have another question from the team? So Rubens is asking, what tips do you have for young people looking to get into construction and deconstruction and to stand out?
So I come across this quite often, and for me, the biggest thing that I look for, I'd rather someone come to us with little or no experience, but come with that attitude, enthusiasm, happy to get in work at 7:30, work hard through the day, and finish at 5:30. And I think when I think about myself, when I came to KpH, I think that's what they saw in me, that I was hungry and excited, and I was enjoying the physical aspect of the work as well as the mental part of it, where I was learning and picking new things up. And so, you know, that attitude is so important. It's
reliability, Steve, as well. Yeah.
Sorry.
Reliability.
Yeah, you know, we have sites of all different sizes. Okay, we have, you know, sites with up to, you know, 100 men on, 150 men, down to some sites that might only have 10 men on, or ladies. Now, you know, the issue with that, you know, it's a very team-based thing, delivering a project. Okay, so, you know, we have the labourers that are moving the waste, collecting the waste, putting it in bins, putting it in the skips. We've got the operatives that are creating the waste, and then so if someone's missing because they couldn't get out of bed in the morning, or, you know, it really impacts the number of skips we can get off site in a day. You know, a bin is pushed by 2 people at a time. So if it's a project with 4 labourers working and one of them's off, you've got a labourer that can't push a bin around, because 2 people have to be on a bin at one time to move it safely around site. So, you know, it has a real impact. So you know, as Lindsay said, reliability and attitude are the kind of real big things for us. And, you know, anyone that comes with that, we're so excited and happy to work with and talk to and work out a plan for them.
I think for what you're saying, it's you know, it's those characteristics, isn't it? It's those personal qualities, and if someone comes with those, you can teach the rest. But you know, those are characteristics that you can't necessarily teach. So if someone already has that intrinsically within them, you know, there's a potential role for them within this
they'll
industry.
do very well. Yeah,
absolutely. So, do we have any more questions? I don't. Oh, okay. So why should individuals from the armed forces community join KpH through the EM3 program? So I think in terms of the EM3 program, I think, you know, you guys, you know, we work together to direct people through to you. So, you know, why do you want to work with us, and ultimately, why do you want to work with the armed forces community?
We talked a lot about this actually before we kind of reached out and spoke to you guys. I mean, from a personal perspective, for myself, my husband is a veteran. He's ex-military. My brother-in-law did 23 years in the army. And talking to them and just having conversations with them about their journey through the military, I could just see so many similarities around the experiences, the way that it's kind of set up, and then obviously the opportunities that it affords in terms of, you know, kind of working your way up through a system, you know, a rank system. And, you know, for us, we believe that we have a place that people can go where they've already learned that skill set. They already have it. It's already in them. You know, the military has taught them that, and we can actually nurture that, and we can actually help them with their kind of career in civvy life, if you like, you know. And there is an adjustment to be made, but we think actually construction, there are quite a lot of similarities that probably makes that adjustment maybe that little bit easier. And that's why we was really interested in working with you guys on this program.
Brilliant. I think that says it all, really, doesn't it? I think that, you know, it highlights that there are such, you know, clear links between the two completely different worlds, and, you know, there's ways that they can really work together to support, you know, people from the armed forces community, and not necessarily just your veterans, but all the spouses and partners of veterans and the currently serving. And then talking about the apprenticeships, particularly, they're likely to be of interest to those young people in our community. So, yeah, I think the links between are quite clear, and it's quite exciting to be able to bring it together. So, do we have any more questions? So Sasha's asking, what sort of training do you provide at KpH? So I think a lot of that has possibly been covered in, like, what Steve was saying about the different routes, but I don't know if there's anything you want to add at all.
I think, you know, we provide as much training as somebody needs, or as little. Some people need less guidance. Like I say, our internal, you know, I've built a slide that kind of shows all the different parts that make someone, you know, that makes someone kind of the skills that they might have or need. And, you know, Lindsay mentioned this competency matrix we have. And, you know, so we've broken down what does a labourer typically do? And then within that, we look at, you know, giving people competency marks between, you know, 1 and 5, 5 being the highest level. That can they do this task on their own? Can they teach someone new how to do that task well? You know, so we back that up with this buddy system that we talked about, where we, you know, there's nothing like, for me, there was no better way of learning than on the job and being with someone who knew what they were doing, watching. You know, so I was labouring for them. If someone was up on a tower cutting ceiling services, ducting and pipe work down, you know, and yes, I was taking the metal off them, but the whole time I was looking how he cut. Why did you cut that way? What's the safest way to cut this? You know, you can cut something down and it dropped to the floor, but you know, again, there could be someone underneath. It's about how do you remove that safely and do it in the you know. And as Lindsay said as well, we're trying to deconstruct stuff. You know, it's not all about cutting everything up and smashing things up. You know, we want to take things down. Air conditioning units get reused a lot. And again, it's about how to take something down safely. So, you know, we have interactive toolbox talks. We have on-site workshops where we have areas. And if it's a big building, it's really easy to do. We can save a room, and then labourers can say, okay, we've got a half an hour breakout session if there's, you know, 10 people who are interested in how to safely remove a piece of ducting or a piece of pipework or a fan coil unit. So, you know, that's all backed up with online training videos that we make available for everybody. So, you know, we're coming at it from all angles, really, as well as classroom trained external courses I mentioned earlier. IPAF and
first aid at work, when you become a supervisor, first aid at work, SMSTS, there will be external courses as well as you start to go through. And then lastly, just very finally, to balance it out, we've spoken a lot about site, but obviously off-site roles. Again, in health and safety, we've supported people through their NEBOSH training, through their IOSH training, which I know some people might not know what they are, and then equally when we've had estimating, we've also supported people who wanted to go back to do like open universities in surveying and things like that. So, you know, it's really down to the individual in terms of the training. It's tailored to them. It's their personal development. We hold reviews, personal development reviews annually, and just work out what does that person want. And it is important to say it's not a one size fits all. You know, it's about that individual. Some people don't want anything. They just want to come to work and do what they're paid to do. Other people are ambitious and want to learn and grow. And it's about nurturing that and identifying those people, who's who, basically. And that's what I think we do quite well within our business.
Well, that kind of wraps it up really nicely, actually. I think, you know, that particularly last statement, Lindsay, it's the ethos of KpH. It's about the individual. It's about how the business supports the individual on their own sort of personal career plan, you know, personal career within the business. So thank you both ever so much for your time. We are at the end of our hour. You know, I could talk about this all day, as you guys could, because it is just so interesting, and it's such a fascinating sort of section of the wider construction piece. But yeah, thank you both ever so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And again, thank you for being the very first employer to sign up with EM3. Thank you. My technology crashed. That very much appreciate for that. And to everybody who is watching on our LinkedIn, YouTube and Facebook channels, thank you very much for tuning in with us this week. Please do join us again, where Joanne, our program manager, will be chatting to a company from the medical technology sector. So that's another one that we're going to be looking at. If you are in the EM3 region, then please do register with our programme at www.rfea.org.uk/EM3. And in the meantime, have a lovely rest of the day, and we will see you again hopefully next week. Thanks very much. Bye.
Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Bye.